Welcome, Alex. Thank you for joining us today.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Pudge. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem. It's absolutely lovely to be able to chat to you in person. I never thought I'd get this kind of opportunity, so thank you for coming on the show. Obviously, this time of year can be a bit grey, a bit gloomy. It certainly has been for us. And we all seem to feel a bit better when there's blue skies and sunshine. Statistically, how much sunshine should we expect this time of year?
Well, you're right, Pudge. This is the dull time of year in every sense, really. But statistically, December is actually the dullest month. That is the month with the least sunshine across the UK. But January isn't far behind. And this December was particularly dull. So it depends where you live exactly. But across the UK, on average, in January, we only get 47 hours of sunshine across the whole month. Now, that does vary. So across the southeast of England, you get 60 hours of sunshine in January, so almost 2 hours a day. Whereas in northern Scotland, you get less than 1 hour a day. So it does vary quite a bit across the country. But January is a pretty dull month. Statistically, December is the dullest of all. And the December we've just had was very dull. So we've talked about the averages, but actually, obviously, year on year, you're going to get variations. And this December, the December just gone, was one of the dullest on record. The dullest December in most of our lifetimes since 1956. And the sixth dullest month on record across the whole of the Met Office records, which go back over 100 years. So December was exceptionally dull. January started dull. I'm pleased to say the sun is out today and it's absolutely beautiful. And it really, really does make a difference. Another good thing is actually the sunshine starts to pick up pretty quickly, pretty soon. So in February, statistically, you get half as much sunshine again compared to January. So yeah, it's pretty gloomy at this time of year, but it does tend to pick up fairly quickly, and we are heading towards spring. So some good news there.
Oh, brilliant. I didn't realise just it got that bad in December, I suppose. We're distracted by so many things going on, festivities and all that. So I suppose we tend to focus more on January being that time of that time of year when we've got nothing much going on. We notice it a bit more, but it's nice to know that things are only on the up now. What I want to ask is if there's any scientific evidence to suggest that the weather helps dictate our mood, or is that purely anecdotal?
There's a lot of anecdotal evidence, but there is also a lot of science behind it as well. SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is a well-known thing. It's been known about for a number of decades now. Now, that is a genuine form of depression, and lights have been developed to help people cope with that, particularly in these darker months. But actually, SAD, seasonal affective disorder, can affect people in the summer months as well. It's a smaller percentage, but it does affect people in those months with too much of the way of brightness. So there is, a lot of science behind that, but there's also a lot of science behind, just generally feeling a bit down at this time of year. It's a time where we tend to eat more, we're more lethargic, and with less sunshine around, we tend to do a bit less exercise. So it is a well-known common feature at this time of year for people to generally be a little gloomier, just like the weather. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that. But as I said, it is perfectly normal. There's a few things that we can do. Get outside when you can. And days like today, if you get a bit of sunshine, make the most of it. But yeah, it's perfectly normal for everyone to feel a little down at this time of year.
Well, I'm glad it's not just me, because it definitely does affect me a little bit physically as well. I must admit, I get a few more headaches, things like that. And, it really does. You look outside first thing in the morning, and one of the first things you're going to go is, oh, or ah. And the way you start your day very much, affects how you go on as well. So I completely understand that. But what about yourself? Are you a man for all seasons? Sometimes it feels like we don't experience the seasons as perhaps we once did. As one of the sayings here in Cornwall is we have two of them, and that's we have winter and June.
Yes, that's a well-known expression around these parts. Personally, I love a bit of sunshine. I can't get enough of days like today. There's been few and far between so far this winter, but it's been an absolute crackerjack of a day today. It started off frosty. We've had blue skies all day. I love days like today. I love it in the spring when it starts to warm up as well, and you feel the warmth of the sun on your face. Do you know there's a word for that? The warmth of the sun on your face in winter is called apricity. I learned that from Susie Dent on Twitter. So there is a word for it, and it's to be appreciated. But I'm a meteorologist as well, right? So actually, for a meteorologist, blue sky days are a little bit boring. There's no clouds to look at. So I appreciate the gloomy days as well, because then you've got clouds to look at. So we always say, always look up. There's always interesting cloud formations to look at as well. So even on grey days, there's always something to spot in my book. So I'm always pretty positive about the weather. It's my job. I love it. I'm very lucky to have a job where every day is different, and I find it absolutely fascinating.
That's lovely. I like that word, apricity. Very pretty name. I suppose for a pretty time of year would make sense. I would imagine most of the audience recognise you from the BBC. I do myself as well. And I understand you actually lived in London during that period of time. Could I ask you, though, was a move down here to the West Country a decision that you took for a better quality of life?
That was absolutely part of it, yeah. And you know, I haven't regretted a second of it. It was what, 5, almost 6 years ago now. Yeah, I was at the BBC for 20 years. So I was living in London for 20 years. I'm from Yorkshire originally, so I'm used to beautiful countryside, God's country, as it's known, and gets a bit more sunshine across the eastern side of the Pennines than we do further west here. Maybe not quite as warm, but Yorkshire is a spectacular part of the world. But I've come to Devon, and I'm really, really blessed. And yes, definitely lifestyle was part of that. I've got a young family, so, you know, a bigger garden, seeing them, being able to grow up and be able to run around, being close to the coast as well. I know people talk about the weather affecting their moods. I'm really affected by the sea now. If I don't see the sea for about a month, I start to feel, you know, really down about it. So it's really nice for me for 20 minutes to be able to get to the coast as well. So yes, that's one of the reasons, one of the driving forces behind coming down here. Change of job. You know, I've been at the BBC for 20 years. I've done the same thing. Obviously, every day is different, as I said, but, you know, doing the same thing, I didn't feel I had a lot more to offer. And come to the Met Office, had a great opportunity. Now we're doing TikToks. You know, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're right across social media. So I'm really, you know, changing the way that I work, still communicating weather and climate, but to different audiences. And again, every day is different, but for different reasons now. Because as I say, one day I'm on TikTok, the next day I'm on Instagram, the next day I'm on Facebook. So yeah, that was a big part of it. Beautiful quality of life, beautiful part of the world, and the fresh air is amazing as well.
It's lovely to hear people like yourself who have come down from London, come more towards the West Country, and you tell us things like that, because a lot of people like myself who live down here, sometimes we think, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if we lived a bit close to a bigger city, or if we had a bit more access to something. But I can tell you now, as somebody who has gone and done a bit of both, I come anytime I'm more away for more than 2 or 3 days, I find myself coming back into Cornwall especially, and I think, yes, actually, I've missed this now. It feels better. Even when, and I tell you something, it's every time I cross the border into Cornwall, all I can see ahead of me is grey cloud. I don't know what it is every time I cross, but it's always grey cloud. And I think, yeah, that's my Cornwall. That's coming into view now. Can it just be sunny once? That'd be really lovely. So I've got to ask, do you have any forecast for us now? Is the weather going to improve anytime soon? Dare I ask, is there any snow?
Well, yeah, improving, define improving. I mean, for me, you can't get better than days like today. Sparkling sunshine after a frosty start. But yes, okay, December was pretty dull. January's not been that great so far, but a lot of dry weather around at the moment. High pressure's moved in and is sticking around for much of this week. High pressure can bring fog and frost, and we're going to see more of that in the mornings. Weekend fairly glum, but after that, there are signs, suggestions it might get a bit colder come the end of the week, but there's no really strong signals for snow. Now, I know a lot of people do love a bit of snow. Snow is always hard to find in the southwest any winter. It's a pretty rare feature, except on the moors, of course. But yeah, there's no really strong signals for any snow. If anything, it looks like towards the back end of January and February, the weather could get livelier again, or wet and windy stuff coming in from the Atlantic. So sorry to disappoint you, Pudge. But when we first moved down here, I remember telling my kids, you know, snow was really hard to find. And then, of course, we had the beast from the east. And I said, oh, make sure, get out and enjoy the snow, because it won't ever happen again. And then 3 weeks later, we had it again. So my reputation as a dad and weather forecaster went out the window that time. But we've never seen it again, or hardly ever seen it again since. And there's, as I say, it's not a lot of sign of snow for the rest of this winter, Pudge. But there's always time. February's quite a long month. Well, it's not, it's the shortest month. But, you know, February's the time for snow. February is statistically the snowiest month. So until we get there, let's not write it.
Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed, because we've all seen what Cornwall can be like. It can be one thing for the rest of the country, and we can have it very, very different down here. And it changes on a dime. I think I've had nearly every weather system before in the space of 5 minutes, and it is the strangest thing, especially when you look out the front, lovely sunny day. You look out the back and it's raining, and you think, huh? That's not right. But just call.
Keeps me in a job, Pudge. It keeps me in a job. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Alex. It's been great hearing from you, and it's lovely. Thank you for taking the time to come on. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Cheers.